This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast and the first episode for 2019 with a guest, Miss Laurie Shopland.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Can you believe it? January already. In fact, we're already a whole week into January. I swear it just keeps getting quicker and quicker and quicker. Hopefully you have had a chance to have a bit of a break over Christmas and the New Year, spend some time with friends and family, and now you are pumped up and ready to take 2019 by the horns and make it your best year ever. Now you're probably being inundated with podcasts and blog posts and emails from just about everybody really, telling you how 2019 should be the best year, and to do that, you have to set goals. Yeah? I know I certainly have. The thing is, I've not sent you one of those emails, and there's a reason for that, and we're going to be delving into that over the next couple of episodes. But today, I have brought on my amazing friend, Laurie Shopland. Now, this woman is beautiful on the inside and absolutely gorgeous on the outside, and she just wants to help you get to where you need to be. I've actually done one of Laurie's workshops live in person, and so I asked her to come on the show and talk to you about why we should throw away this concept of goal setting and start looking at goal getting. I do have to say that so many of the things that I had envisaged for my life over the last 2 or 3 years literally just all came true in about the last, 6, 8, 12 weeks, somewhere in the last couple of months anyway. And I am so excited for 2019. And all of this has come about because I took away this concept of linear growth, and we're talking about that a lot inside the Retail Academy. But essentially, linear growth is, I guess you'd say a percentage. So you often say, I'm going to do 30% more than I did last year, or I want to earn this much money because it's an amount that's based on what you've done in the past. But I threw out all of that, and I started looking at this thing called exponential growth, which is essentially, I know it's a little bit woo-woo, guys, and this is a little bit of a woo-woo episode, but with some scientific stuff thrown in as well. But looking at this concept of exponential growth, which is essentially saying, this is where I want to go, and it doesn't really matter what's happened in the past. I'm not going to let the past and how much I've turned over, or how many staff I had, or how much inventory I had last year, all those kinds of things, just taking that out of the equation and saying, actually, what I really want from this year is X, Y, Z. And just using that intention to get where you need to go. And I have to say, it has worked for me, and Laurie and I talk about this quite a lot in the podcast. So if you want this year to be fantastic, if you just want to throw out the rule books and not be using last year's numbers to drive your growth, then this episode is for you. Those things that I've always wanted to do is speak live on stage. You guys know that. I've mentioned it loads and loads of time. And that's one of those intentions I put out there, and it's come true. I've literally just been booked to speak at several events in the first half of this year. Now, if you've been following me on social media, you'll know that the NRF Big Show, the National Retailers Federation Big Show, which is on the 13th to the 15th of January in New York, is one of those events that I've been asked to speak at. In fact, I'm doing 2 live podcasts at the show. Super pumped to be interviewing a couple of the speakers from the show and bringing their take on retail to you guys. So listen up for those in the upcoming episodes. Now, going to New York isn't all fun and games as much as I'm looking forward to the NRF Big Show. I actually have managed to squeeze in a couple of days for working one-on-one with clients. Now, a couple of those sessions have already been snapped up by my existing clients, but I do have 2 more sessions left for people who would like to do a half-day intensive with me, probably focusing on Facebook ads. I've popped it up on the website to talk about Facebook ads, but if you've got something else that you want to work on, maybe it's your marketing plan, maybe it's your social media, maybe it's the strategy for your business, we can use that time to work on whatever it is that you need. Now, obviously, this is a very rare opportunity. I don't do one-on-one sessions very often at all, and almost never in person. So I've opened up 2 sessions for you guys who are listening here on the podcast, and you can find those over at selenaknight.com/Facebook. So if you would like to spend 3 hours with me live in person, just you and I, one-on-one, working on your Facebook ads, your social media, your retail strategy, your marketing, whatever it is you need help with, make sure you snap those up. There are only 2 left, and I don't have any more time to add any in. So if it's something that you feel like you could benefit from, head over to selenaknight.com/Facebook and grab your spot now. And if you are going to be in the Big Apple for the NRF Big Show, make sure that you send me a DM or send me a PM on Facebook, and we'll have to catch up and do a little retailer soiree. Okay, enough from me. I know that you are looking forward to goal getting instead of goal setting. So let's jump into today's episode with the gorgeous Laurie Shopland. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Well, the new year is upon us, and if you're like most people that I talk to, it is a time for goal setting, for deciding where you want this year to take you. But I have to admit that I am not always perfect at my whole goal getting. So today I've brought on the beautiful Laurie Shopland to help us with how we can actually set the right goals and how we can get the right goals, but also we're actually going to be focusing a lot on our mindset. So this is not a goal setting planning session. It's not a goal getting planning session. We're actually talking about what's in our brains and what's holding us back and how we can actually tweak that in order to have the best year that we've ever had. Now, Laurie's a woman who has benefited greatly from life coaching, especially when her life was turned upside down for her family. And she's been driven ever since to learn how to help others to live their fullest potential and believe in themselves every step of the way. And to be honest, believing in yourself is probably the key thing to being a successful person. So welcome to the show, Laurie. I'm so excited to have you on. And for those, I didn't mention that for those who are listening, Laurie and I actually know each other because we are in a mastermind together. So I have seen this lady firsthand. I've been to one of her mindset workshops and they are fabulous. So I thought she's got to come on the show and talk to you guys as well, because I want this to be your most profitable year ever. So welcome, Laurie.
Thank you, Sal. So excited to be here.
Now tell us a little bit how you got into this side of coaching.
It is a 16-year journey. So if there's anybody that needs inspiration out there, that if you have a seed planted, water it and it will come to fruition eventually. I was a professional fundraiser and just was fulfilling everybody else's dreams of having all of that come together. But I knew that life coaching was something I always wanted to do. And it was because I myself had found and fulfilled a goal of, just getting through some stuff on my own. So mindset was huge. So then when I put my cap on to be able to help others and go back to school and actually study to be a life coach. So I love it. Love it. And I love helping people, because what I do see is that we all get stuck in our own head, and then that's where our growth stops. So as I said, 16 years worth, I could have done this 16 years ago, and it took me that many years to kind of figure it out. So if I can offer anything to anyone, just the mindset alone can expedite the processes of anything.
Oh, that's so generous of you. So tell us about are you okay with sharing what this big moment was in your life that pivoted where you were heading?
Yeah, sure. Our daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, and I was frozen in fear. I could not see tomorrow. And so as soon as she survived, she's great. She actually just got married this last summer, 22 years later.
Beautiful girl. Seen the pictures.
Yes. But what it did do at that time, when I was ready to kind of move forward, I really needed to look and go and get rid of the fear for one, and I called it a sliver, like I was just stuck there. And so it was interesting. I am, and this is 16 years ago. So this is really before life coaching even became a thing. And I hired one to work with to be able to move me out of this stuck state to go, okay, I want to live and I want to see and get out of the fear state and the overwhelm. So I worked with a life coach, and actually at that time, my goal was to give back. And that is how my 20 odd years service of fundraising came into fruition. So it opened doors for me to fulfill a goal that I had to give back. But all the while, the tools that I learned working with my life coach, my first one 16 years ago, it filled a toolkit that I've been sharing ever since. And so with that sharing, I'm like, oh, I need to do this full time. But it aligned with my wanting to give back to, for me, it was the Canadian Cancer Society was my first initiative. And then after that, I went on to a number of other fundraising initiatives to do, raised over $40 million in my career doing that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So not shy about getting out there and really kind of bringing stories together. And then now it's helping others tell their stories and figure out where they want to go and helping them pull out that tweezer, that sliver that's holding them back and moving and taking action.
Do you think, and I'll give you an example, but do you think that fear is probably the number one thing holding us back?
I call it my 4-letter word. So it absolutely, for me, for personally, and for certainly for my clients, it comes down to fear of being vulnerable, fear of finding out that, oh my goodness, we're not enough and not worthy enough for our future, for our dreams to materialize. So it just captivates us and holds us in one place. So as a life coach, I always encourage my clients to feel every emotion. So fear is not one that I say run and hide from. It's like, bring it on. And then working with my clients in anything that they set forward. So we're talking about goals for businesses here. Some can be really overwhelming, right? Like, oh my God, how am I going to double my income for next year? That can put you in a place of fear. So I encourage our listeners to, break through that and sit with fear and go, okay, because the worst really that can happen is that you actually have to feel it. It's not going to kill you, right? It really is not.
But it's going to make you feel bloody uncomfortable.
It totally is. But imagine if you get comfortable being uncomfortable, oh my God, you can do anything. And that, truthfully, that is my experience of how I think I was successful raising the $40 million is I got uncomfortable. I got really comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And I would say our daughter's illness was the start of it, and realizing it didn't kill me. The fears did not kill me. And I was able to pursue and live with fear and bolster through it. Then after that, it was like, oh my God, I can do anything. And so I went knocking on doors and it just didn't hold me back. So now knowing that, that's what I help my clients do.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that. And I just want to put in an example here because it's very easy to put people on a pedestal, especially when you might have listened to a podcast or you see somebody else being successful. But I work with a life coach every single week, and fear is my biggest thing. And when I tell people that, they just go, but you're so strong, you're so brave, you're so vivacious, you're so vocal, you're always out there, you're happy to get up in front of the spotlight. But to me, that's not something that scares me. Getting up and sharing my knowledge is not something that scares me. But what does scare me are all those things that you just said. Fear of not being able to help people, fear of not having enough to give, like maybe I'm going to miss out. And definitely fear, not fear of I guess fear of success. I think everybody has a bit of a fear of success. And I think I'm getting more comfortable with that as the years go on. But my big thing this year, I'm 42, just about to turn 43. In fact, I may well be 43 by the time this goes live. But my big thing is, oh my God, I might only have another 40 years to live. And that might not be enough. And so for the last couple of years, probably since I turned 40, mortality has definitely been something on my mind, simply because I want so much out of life and I want to give so much in life that I worry that 40 years is not going to be enough.
And it's so interesting because right there, I see a sliver of scarcity, right? So it's I would like, and it's so common. It's so common. And I got to tell you, I turned 50 this year. So that had a whole bunch of mindset work to do on that. And 2 kids getting married this summer, like lots of stuff. So it's not even in my business that I need the life coaching. It's in my everyday life
Life, yeah.
as well. Right. But for you, Sal, just even acknowledging the fact that you are acknowledging the fear is probably why you are able to show up when others are seeing you like that, being so real and vivacious and out there and powerful, because I'm feeling fearful, but I can work through this. And so then that in itself builds that confidence, like right back to your beginning statement, the self-confidence is in there. And we often look, and this was the workshop you sat in on that we did together, was we often look exterior for others to build our self-confidence.
Yep.
In fact, it's such a tool for us to like build on it on our own. It's our own thoughts and our own belief in ourselves. And that's why goal setting is so powerful, because the more you prove and honor yourself that you can do something, the more credibility you give to yourself from yourself. And so you're building that self-confidence over and over again. So hey, I actually beat down fear the other day because I had to go knock on a door. And so then you've got now evidence to prove that when the next time fear comes, you go, okay, bring it on. I can sit in this and I can overcome this.
Yep. I think a lot of the time, and myself included, we look to other people for validation. We have to put it out there because we aren't, it all comes back to confidence. We aren't confident that we're going to make the right decision. And I see this from little things like, can I get some feedback on my logo? Or I've got this customer who is being a pain in the butt, should I just refund them? It's like, guys, come on, you can answer these questions by yourself.
So one of my greatest nuggets that I often will tell all of my clients is, what if you made no wrong decisions? What if just on the get-go, if you get up in the morning and say, whatever decisions I make today, I am actually going to have my own back, and I'm going to believe that that's the best decisions that I'm making as of the information that I have today. You're building that confidence and that belief in yourself. Yeah. And then as evidence proves and things and information changes, then you go, oh, that's interesting. Now I need to reshift. And it's not that yourself, as I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'll then tell myself, oh, silly you should have known better. And it's like, well, no, right? It's okay. I did what I did when I made that decision, and then moving forward, and you pivot and accept the new change as it comes forward. Right. So it's so powerful for us to be our own advocates. My coach, master coach, Brooke Castillo, has a great saying and says, what other people think of me is none of my business.
I love that. And
isn't that awesome?
It is. And it always makes me think, I don't know where I heard this, but a few years ago, I heard somebody say, you being angry or upset or frustrated with somebody else only hurts you, because they've walked off. My husband is really good at getting angry at people in the car, like people who cut him off. And I always say to him, they can't hear you. They're gone. Like they don't care. Yeah. They don't care how you're feeling. Meanwhile, you're banging the steering wheel, and he doesn't have many faults, but that's one of them.
So interesting, because I currently have a client that, is stage 3 breast cancer. And she's coming mindset because she's beaten this thing, and she's actually going to beat it in expediting the treatment time frame for her, that she's getting it done. And she caught herself that she was angry at somebody. And it was so interesting because as we were talking, her whole focus was of health. And so when we went through, and I use a methodology called the model. And so as we were going through the whole system, we caught exactly that the other person had no clue. The anger that she was feeling was sitting inside of her. Yeah. And it was so counterproductive for her mission, her goal to cure herself of cancer.
Getting well.
That she was like, oh my God, I don't want anything negative inside me. Like, it was so apparent. So it was a beautiful way to see that. So for yourself, for your husband, absolutely. Like, whatever emotion we're feeling, we're feeling it ourselves. So
Yeah.
when we say to our kids, like, I love you, the love is sitting inside of us, right?
Mm.
They know it by the light in our face that they see, but they actually, the love's not landing on them, right?
No.
It's a beautiful thing. And I love working on with my clients to kind of walk through all of that.
All right. We are talking about goal setting. We probably should start talking about that.
Yes, true.
But this was all very much a lead up. So I wanted to maybe touch on something that we're talking about inside the Retail Academy this month, which is the difference between linear growth and exponential growth, and how so often we rely on our past to predict our future. Now, we're talking about business, but let's be honest, this happens in life as well.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just explain that a little bit more. So quite often in business, we say, I want a 40% increase on last year, or I want double the number of sales, or I want, then there's always a reference to what we did before. So if you want double the number of sales, you're relying on the sales that you got last year to predict your sales for the future. But I believe that actually it's possible to do exponential growth. And I heard a really great description of this, because we are on a podcast. So linear growth is kind of like the line at the bottom of the chart that goes at the bottom left that goes to the top right, and you're on a trajectory. But the exponential growth is like a hockey stick. So you kind of start, and maybe you might even go a little bit backwards because you're investing in your business, but then you get up to the top so much quicker because you're not relying on what you did in the past. So if you imagine when the hockey stick goes down a little bit, if you had a really crap year, then when you say, if you say, I want 30% year-on-year growth, that 30% could just put you back to what you were the first year. When in actual fact, you can surpass that when you stop doing the things that you did, because if you keep doing the same things you did, you're never going to get a different result. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
And it's so interesting because when we goal set, how we work with our clients, because a segue here is we've got the Natural Product Academy, right? So we work with entrepreneurs that have natural products that want to get them to market. And they're in these places of, okay, so they want to grow and they want to keep going. So we coach them through setting goals for themselves. Is one of the biggest nuggets I offer them is, let's say you want to, and it's interesting, we actually, instead of percentages, we do kind of growth numbers and dollar points and such that we reach to. And it's who do you have to be in order to have achieved that goal? Like, that's the mindset. So if I want to increase my my sales to for $200,000, and who is that person now that has that increase of $200,000? And that's the mind I need to start thinking of today. Yeah. So all of the work that I'm doing every day, I'm already thinking about, I'm that person that's making 200,000 to 2 million, whatever your increase
number
is.
Yeah.
That is who I'm actually, and those are the decisions I'm making today is based on that mindset of that person that's already received that goal.
Yeah, I love that, because I see so many independent retailers who are in that either the beginning of the hockey stick or maybe even the bottom, who are investing, who've gotten to a point where there's always a point in your business where you kind of have to go backwards to go forward. You have to invest, because for most people, revenue alone is never going to get you that exponential growth. So they either take out a loan or they get a partner or whatever it looks like. They have to invest in their business. And that becomes a very scary thought. But I see so many people holding themselves back because they're not prepared to spend $75 a month on a really good email service provider that will make them money. Or they're not prepared to spend $20 a month on an app that will save 3 hours a month. They're still operating in that very small mindset, is what I like to call it. So I like to say, stop thinking small. And they're operating in that small mindset very much from a place of like, if I spend the money, then if I spend the money, it has to come from somewhere else. It has to be taken away from somewhere else. And I kind of like to think, but just make more money. Does that make sense?
Well, there's that scarcity mindset again, right? So I would offer, it makes a lot of sense for the clients to be thinking that if they in fact haven't made that money. But what we want to tap into is but now I'm putting on the hat of the person that's already made that money.
Mm-hmm.
So how did I get there? And then you start, the brain is such an amazing machine. So when we tell our brain that we are stuck thinking about today as all we know of the information we know today, then the brain's only going to look to the past for examples of how we've achieved what we've done, right?
Yeah.
So when we talk about setting goals, and let's say, $200,000 more that you're wanting to do. So that entrepreneur that wants to create their sales that much more, they're having to go, what would I have to be thinking in order to have made that money, in order to have increased my sales that much? And what that does is, even peppering your brain with questions, the brain's a machine. It's going to go to work, and it's going to start going, oh, I wonder how I could do that, and start giving you options, or being inquisitive to have conversations with other people, saying, well, I don't know this yet, so I wonder where I need to find this out.
Yeah.
Instead of relying, as you were so pointed in saying, of relying on your past.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't make that extra 200,000, so you can't look in your past to find the solutions there. You've got to be looking futuristic to be able to go, okay, and open up the brain. And I love, you had already said it already, the 3-letter word is yet. I don't know how to do this yet.
Yeah.
And that even offers your brain permission to go, oh, okay, but I'm going to go find some solutions, and I'm going to just go to work and try and find out some new ways to do it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you for some tips, but you just said something that made me think. So I want to get your advice, because I haven't really thought this through.
Okay.
Because so often we focus on the past, you do the goal setting workshop. It says, how much money did you make last year? How much money did you want to make next year? And then how are you going to do it? So most people would sit down and go, okay, so I need to make an extra $10,000 a month. So that just means I need to sell, 3,000 more products. That's not the $3 products. Anyway, 300 more products, and which means I need to buy more inventory because I won't have enough products. But perhaps from what you just said, maybe what they need to do, and again, please give me some feedback here, is go, actually, if I want to make $200,000 more, I need to look at what my business would look like at $200,000 more. So then what systems, what processes, what pieces of technology, what people do I need to put in place in order to get me there, even if right now I don't have the money? Would that be correct?
Oh, absolutely. We run our business, and, and when we first started the Natural Product Academy, we set it up as $1 million business, right? Instantly, instead of just saying, we've always treated it from that futuristic of, this is where we're going, and how am I today making a decision, and based on where we're going to be. So that the email systems and everything else, when you've got 10 people on your emails, right? Like, does it make sense to invest in this? But setting up, and even believing in yourself enough to say, these are the systems we're putting into place to be able to reach the goals that we're getting. One thing I want to offer is a really good tool that I do once I have our clients go down and write down sort of their top list of things that they want to create. We have them pick one, but then what we do is I ask them, like, what is your brain telling you of why you can't? And capturing it right away is, because as soon as you see a goal, because you would just listed off what they wanted to do, and they go right into to-do modes, I think it's so important from the mindset perspective is catch what your brain is trying to tell you, because it's going to get into your brain one way or another. It's going to get into your subconscious one way or another. So you might as well at least take a look at it. So it's an exercise that we do on a worksheet that we have available, and it's listing out what your brain is telling you of what the roadblocks are that your brain's already telling you why you can't do that, and be aware of them, and then come up with strategies in order to prevent that. So when your brain tells you, well, I'm going to need to buy more inventory. Oh my God, that's more money, and I won't be able to do that. And it runs on a whole new rabbit trail. Well, that's interesting. Okay, so this is what I'm afraid of. There's that fear again.
Yes.
What am I going to do? How am I going to actually overcome that? And by dealing with them ahead of time, and I would offer, like, we do this exercise between the end of December and January, right after Christmas and New Year's, to goal set and get for 2019. And it's what does that look like? And when your brain already is anticipating what the fears are,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you have obstacles that you've identified and solutions in order to attack them with and to
Yep.
get through them, then what you're going to do is when in fact it comes time to buy more inventory, your brain goes swirly on you. You go, oh, wait a minute. I already got this covered. I've already thought all the way through this and I've got a solution in place. And it goes right back to now you're building confidence in yourself. You make good decisions. You've got this, right? And you're now being that $200,000 increase person because you know, like, no, I've got this. I've already anticipated the problems that we're going to come up against.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I often get told we run our business like a $5 million business. And people are so surprised that I have, 3 staff and the systems in place that we have. And I'm exactly like you. It's the effort to change and the impact it can have on your business. Like even something simple like changing an email service provider and putting in place all the automations again. We just did it recently and it took 7 weeks. So 7 weeks of our time, 7 weeks of money, because we were paying for 2 service providers. The effort and just the effort, it was good for us. We used it as an audit time. So we went, okay, if we've got to do this, let's go through and prune everything back and get rid of stuff that's not working, all that kind of stuff. Because you've got to look at the good, right? Yes, it's going to be a pain in the butt, but let's use this as an audit opportunity. But now I'm so passionate about let's just find you the right thing for where you want to be. And yes, it may cost a little bit more right now, but it's going to make life so much easier when you get there.
Absolutely. And it's that mindset again. It can be looked at as, oh, it's costing me money, or as you'd said, and you've said it about 3 different times, is it's an investment. And even the mind shift around that of saying, I am investing in my own business because I am reaching it to be that $5 million business. So even that in and of itself is telling your brain going, no, this is an investment that we're doing in this. So I would just really encourage any of the listeners to really just catch the language that we use and the words that we use of looking at things as challenges. And I love how you looked at a challenge and then said, well, no, this is a great opportunity to do an audit on this. And I love, like, I'm so visual is I just even see the posture change of it. And then it creates a whole new momentum to being able to create, right? And move forward and plow through all of that audit because you got it done, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I think we were going to talk about goal getting, and we kind of are in a roundabout way, but this conversation is much better, I think. So probably the biggest fear that I see people have is operating from a very lack-filled mindset. So back to that, the concept of if I pay for this, it has to come from somewhere else rather than it's just going to appear. So can you give us some tips? Because we are talking about goal setting and I'm talking about exponential growth. So I'm saying if you're doing $200,000 now, you could actually do $1 million next year. Like, if you want to change what you're doing, the way that you're doing it, and put systems and processes in place and get really clear on where your business is going, then you can actually do it. People do it. And what I find most people holds back is that lack mindset, but I'm not going to have enough. I don't have enough inventory to do $1 million, or I can't see how I can go from 200,000. Like I can't 5x my business overnight or over 12 months. So could you give us some really great tips? Because I know this is something that you're fantastic at, of how we can shift from being in this constant fear of not having enough to actually saying it will come.
Well, it goes really back to, I really encourage anyone and all to capture those thoughts that you're having, right? So a simple, like a daily journal of downloading what your goal is for that day. And at the top actually of what your we actually do an exercise on called an impossible goal. So, if you're wanting $1 million, then I would put 5 million, right? And the impossible goal is 5 million. And it's so interesting because then when you land at $1 million, you go, oh, right. Like, it's just so funny how you just like bounce back and go, oh, so So just even stretching yourself, and again, recognizing that the brain's a machine. So whatever information you put in, it's going to start to go to work on. So if you're constantly giving it reasons why you cannot achieve something, that's the meat of the machine, that's actually going to go to work to make that a reality and a fruition. So by even journaling each day, capturing what thoughts you're having about what you need to achieve even just that day, and as I had mentioned before, what are the thoughts about saying, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this, like here are the obstacles I'm facing, and then just pausing and going, okay, how else could I actually look at this? Because if I'm telling my brain I can't achieve it and I can't do this, it's going to abide by that and it's going to provide that outcome.
Yeah.
So if I actually want to go to work and say, I need to buy more inventory today and I'm scared that I'm actually not going to have enough money, then maybe even just posturing on that to say, I wonder how I could get more money. And just again, it's asking those questions to your brain that will then your brain will go to work. And dollars to donuts, right? Because when you shut down the brain and tell it something and you give it a statement, it will go to work. And then it's so interesting. It will go and provide you evidence to say, oh, you're so right. We don't have the money. And it's going to pull up all of the recent bills that you've got and everything else, right? Because that's what your brain does. It tries to be really efficient and it tries to keep you in the cave and safe and not feeling, that discomfortable feeling that we just talked about.
That uncomfortable feeling. Yep.
Yes. So what we try to do is kind of push it a little bit by saying and asking, and I love going to curious. So every day I do it. It's called a thought download. And I'll say, what do I want to do today? And what are the thoughts that are holding me back from wanting to get any of this done? And so then I'm capturing where my little hidden fears are. And I'll go, okay, so how can I actually expand my brain to actually, bring this to light? And where else could I go to? And so then I get curious and I ask questions. And then my brain goes to work. And I probably do it for about 40 minutes in the morning. And there's some other journaling that I do as well. But that's part of the day for myself is I actually go, okay, how am I going to do this? And then overcome, so that when throughout the day, if then I have to make that phone call to get the more inventory and somebody says, oh, well, that's going to be X amount of dollars, my brain already knows that. And I've already got the solution to that problem already, right? So it's such a powerful tool to just watch the language of what your brain is telling you and articulating, and then see, and again, for me being visual on paper, to say, wow, that's so interesting. Because look at all of these I can'ts in this sentence.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's going to be what you're going to have the outcome of. So if any of them, just draw one and say, okay, this is the one I'm going to work on and find a solution for this. And how am I going to do that? And start asking yourself some questions like that.
Sounds like a way more productive 40 minutes than spending it on Facebook.
Oh, imagine that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, speaking of productive, at the workshops I did a couple of months ago, I got up to say that I am a reforming workaholic. Like, I was the person who would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, even though I didn't need to, and I would be at my shop 2 hours early and I would stay 2 hours late, all that kind of stuff. Now I work around 5 hours a day, 4 days a week, and then a half day on Friday. Now, obviously, sometimes there are exclusions to the rule, but essentially I work from, the school hours. And people say to me, how do you get everything done in 5 hours? And the answer is, I have 5 hours. And if you look at my calendar today, I get off the phone from you and I've got 15 minutes to go and have a cup of tea, go to the bathroom, and then I have my next thing. And I'm okay with being fully booked out for 5 solid hours because I can kind of do a week's work. I find if I'm not booked out, I do a lot of faffing. So there's a lot of floating around on Facebook. There's a lot of walking upstairs to make a cup of tea, all that kind of stuff. Or I could just get stuff done and then have the whole rest of the day off. So when Lana comes home from school, we walk the dog together, then we cook dinner, we might go for a swim, whatever it is. I don't have to worry about having to go back to work. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect. It does still happen. There are days when we do have to pick her up from school and then I come back to work for an hour or so. But generally speaking, my hours of work are sort of 9:30 till 2:30. Sometimes only till 2 because I go to the gym now and go for a run at 2 o'clock before I pick her up from school. And I just was looking at my husband looked at my calendar the other day and he goes, oh my gosh, this whole week you have no free time. I'm like, I have loads of free time. They just don't have any free time between 9 and 2 because I just want to get the stuff done. And I think quite often we fill the time that we have
Mm-hmm.
rather than being our most productive.
What you have just like nailed on is, I think it's number 5 on the worksheet, is when you identify what it is that you want to do and you've figured out what your brain's telling you of why you can't do it, and then you've come up with a strategy as to now, okay, solutions of how you actually can overcome it. You then break it down. So exactly as you've done, what do I have to do in order to achieve this goal? So, and it could be, if it's even a year-long goal, it's breaking it down into the quarters, the months, the days, right? And even the hours of what you have to do. And then it's actually, just as you said, it's calendaring everything. So my calendar is
Same.
and I actually even book my free time, which I have friends and family that think like, oh my God, you're so anal. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, but when I get to sit down and watch a show, I'm not worrying about anything else because I know everything, and I've honored myself and everything on my calendar to do. It's golden. I can sit there with a lovely glass of wine and watch a lovely movie and not be worrying about the things that are taking up brain space, because it's all done. It's all on my calendar, and and I know I'm going to honor myself to get it done.
I 100%. I used to laugh that we live our life by Google Calendar because my husband travels. Obviously now that Lana's at school, everything has to go into the calendar, even if it's just who's picking up Lana from school or who's taking her to school. And we actually got caught out yesterday because my husband had told me he wouldn't be here and I hadn't put it into the calendar. It worked out okay. But I remember thinking at the time, oh my goodness, I usually block out 20 minutes for that, to get there, come back. And thank goodness it wasn't a busy day. But in my head, I'm not a very organized person. I don't do it for the organization. Well, I guess that's a bit of an oxymoron. I do it for the organization, but that's not the motivator. The motivator is I only want to spend this much time working. So everything just needs to be put in there. And we do the same thing. I put dinner in there. So you can't book a podcast when it's my dinner time. And I'll put, going to the gym in there if there's a certain day I want to go to, or if Lana's got dance lessons, we put those in so that there is no overlap. But I think it also comes down to something you just said earlier is, or maybe we just talked about it, it's just not having to be like the default. Maybe this was just me talking about it. Actually, I think I did the talking about how it's really easy to say yes to everything, but in actual fact, it's okay to say no. So just a quick example is, so Lana goes to aerial silks. They've got the big ribbons off the roof. Yep. So that's her sport. She loves doing that. But it's by the time I pick her up from school, which is 3:00, and then take her down there and then get back home in peak hour traffic, it's 3 hours, even though the lesson only goes for 1 hour. So we don't get home till 6:00. And so I just said to the other mums, look, there's 3 kids. I'm happy to do it once every 3 weeks. Like, we can organize the calendar, whatever. And they were just, oh my God, we can do that? I was like, hell yeah. She can only go if there's at least 2 other kids and we share the load, because I don't want to take that much time out of my day to be sitting there in traffic all the time. Like, yes, I'm happy to sit there and watch her do the aerial silks, but then there's 2 whole hours of my day every single week. But that's a lot of time that
So
you
good.
can't do anything, like sitting there in traffic. So I think what I'm trying to say here is, don't always think that you have to shoulder the load, and that you're allowed to be selfish. You're allowed to book in lunch. You're allowed to book in time to go for a walk. You're allowed to book in time to go to the gym and look after your own self. And if you put that in the calendar, inevitably it gets done.
Mm-hmm. Well, we just finished doing a podcast on a year in review.
Mm-hmm.
And in that review, it was not only our business, it was our personal as well, because we're a whole person, right? So in order to be able to provide for our students, right, and provide for my coaching clients, I need to be of sound mind and body. So absolutely, right? And it does nobody any good if I've let one of that part of my life fall down. So equally important of setting those goals and attaining those goals is what, and I would offer the skills that I've learned along the way to be disciplined in doing my yoga practice, to be disciplined in my weight loss program, has rolled over into my discipline, into my calendaring at work, and showing up for myself at work just as much as I do for, the food that I eat and as often as I exercise. So it's such good evidence for your body's mind, again, to be able to build that confidence in yourself. So I will often say to my clients that they are trying something different and stepping out, especially with natural product creators, right? If they're just now launching a new business, they've never done this before.
Yeah.
So we'll sit down and I'll say, yeah, but have you ever tried anything else scary in your life before? And often them, they're young women that have young kids. And I'm like, were you ever a mom before?
Yeah.
No. Okay. So you've got experience about doing something that scares the crap out of you, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, growing a business is nothing unusual to you. It's just a different kind of beast, but you have experience of honoring yourself and doing that. So very similar of setting goals for your business as well as personal life. I would say they blend so beautifully together as well.
And let's be honest, the reason we go into business for ourselves is for that freedom. It is to have that financial freedom of uncapped earning potential and to have the freedom of being able to work when you want to work. So if you're not getting either of those, you're just giving yourself a job with all the crappy parts and not with the benefits.
Exactly. A few of us call that a jobby.
A jobby.
A jobby. Kind of a bit of a hobby, but a jobby. Yeah.
All right. I want to give you a really good example of how none of us are immune to fear. Is in yoga 2 weeks ago, we were asked to do this pose called the crow. And
Oh, yes.
I'll just try and explain it for you guys. So imagine that you're squatting and then you put your hands on the floor and then you have to put your knees around your elbows. So your feet come up off the floor. And I have to sit near the front at yoga because I don't wear my glasses, so I can't see. And so the teacher came over and he's like, you can do it. You can do it. I said, no, I'll fall flat on my face. And he's like, no, you can do it. Don't let fear hold you back. And so I kind of had to go and I just got my feet off the ground and sort of went back down again. Anyway, the next night, after having drunk 2 glasses of champagne, sitting in the sauna with my assistant Elizabeth, because we were on those live events, I was telling her, I said, oh, I was in yoga yesterday. Have you ever done this pose, the crow? And she said, oh, no, which one's that? Show me. And of course, I did it about 5 times because I'd had 2 glasses of champagne and I was very relaxed because we'd been in the spa and then we're sitting in the sauna. There was nobody to see me fall flat on my face apart from a very good friend. And I did it over and I said like, oh, that was a fluke. And I did it again. I was like, oh my goodness, I can do this thing. I did it again. It's like, oh, I can walk like this. So
Awesome.
I think just like losing some inhibitions, even if it did take 2 glasses of champagne and a very relaxing sauna, to me, I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh my goodness, that to me was like a really sort of affirming moment that so often we hold ourselves back, even if it's something simple as a yoga pose, because we fear falling over, we fear being laughed at, we fear not being a success.
Mm-hmm. And I would offer, so 2 quick things with that is 1, right now you've built evidence for yourself that the next time you go in to do that,
I can do it.
You can tell your brain saying, oh no, come on, I did this. I absolutely did this before, right? So there you go. And you've already started to build that evidence and that belief in yourself to do that. And when we get up to, and I love this example of when we haven't done something before and that fear comes in, think back to when we were all babies or we've had children and watched them grow. They didn't learn to walk by instantly doing it. They had to learn to crawl and then they had to learn to stand up. They didn't give up the first time that they fell down after they crawled to walk, right? So it was this whole journey that we just tend to think that coming out of the gates, it's got to be perfect and beautiful. And yet it's just allowing ourselves that grace to be able to say, I'm just going to accept everything that comes. So the first time of you doing it, even if you had fallen, you were that much more further than you would have not ever trying. And when we think of any of our businesses and the goals that we set, look at how much further you are by just trying to reach that. Look at all the skills and the experiences you've gained by just pushing that a little bit further from yourself, right? Rather than just staying in the cave and being safe and never trying, exploring and growing and evolving.
One of my favorite sayings is done is better than perfect.
Yes, it is. I've heard that many times from you.
It's like, what would Sal say? Done is better than perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, you and I could talk for ages, but we've been talking for a while. So I'm going to finish up there. And you have a lovely worksheet that people can grab, don't you? You're going to share with us something that they can use to help them move themselves forward for 2019. So where can they find that?
Yeah, so that's on our website, which is Shopland Health. and it's on the coaching page. So shoplandhealth.ca/coaching.
Mhm.
And it is a goal getting guide. And it will just list out, it's 7 different questions for you to complete, and you can do it on every goal, business or personal. And it really just helps you identify, gets into your head a little bit of breaking down what's holding you back from moving forward and achieving and getting these goals that you've set for the new year.
Awesome. And you have a podcast about this as well. So what is the name of your podcast?
It's Shopland Health, and it's nice, simple, and easy.
Easy to remember, guys.
Yeah, and it's a husband and wife team, and we just work with entrepreneurs that are looking to expand or grow into the natural product industry, and I come on as the life coach just to help them get out of their own way and let them achieve the success that they know and deserve, that they need to get.
Well, I'm sure the stuff that you have shared with everybody today is going to help them move just an incremental little step forward. So thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Oh, it's been my pleasure and lovely chatting and catching up with you. All the best.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selenaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.